For the last 3 weeks, I've been playing a 26-year-old RPG with some friends. The game is Everquest, of course. It's on its surface, quite dated, clunky game with weird, opaque mechanics, and it's a little hard to get into. I played it 25 years ago or so, and I kind of have weird nostalgic memories about it. I've come back to it several times, but people have been playing it for that long, and on a lot of servers, people have 20 plus years of gear and whatever. It's not really fun because those people are so dedicated that they're all playing at the top of their game and just coming in there. It just isn't that fun to play alone. However, for the last decade or so, the company that runs EverQuest has put out yearly servers that start from an early expansion, from a fresh start for everyone, so everyone's coming in with crappy nothing gear and is just surviving on their wits alone for a few weeks at least. And that's exciting for me. So I've talked a couple of my friends into joining me, and we're going to EverQuest. Right, it's the start of day one here. This was May 28th, 2025, I believe. I gather my two friends here, Broaf and Wearable Snake. Snake actually streams. I'll drop his link somewhere. And we jump onto the new server and we're thrown into a queue. The queue says 1 minute, but it takes about 20 minutes to resolve and get us in. That's probably a good sign that people are logging in, because unlike a lot of more modern RPGs, a game like EverQuest requires people to group, and it is much more fun if you're kind of working with a bunch of other people at a similar level of experience and gear as you. So if a lot of people are on there, we're going to have a lot of ability to find other people to play with. Broaf here, one of my oldest friends, has made a shaman. He hasn't played very much EverQuest, but we recommended this because he enjoyed playing support classes in World of Warcraft and other MMOs. Shaman is a really cool and popular class. They have pretty limited race selection. You have to be a barbarian, troll, the Ixar lizard people, an ogre, or a Vashir cat person for it. But they get both okay healing abilities as well as some of the best buffs in the game. They can also do a lot of damage with damage over time effects, and are able to eat their own bodies to regain mana. So that's going to be quite interesting. Snake here, Wearable Snake, is an Enchanter, Enchanter. Enchanters are a really interesting class because they sort of break the dynamics of the tank, DPS, support, Holy Trinity or whatever. They have a ton of utility. What they bring to the table are three kind of main things, as well as a lot of other tools, but they can mesmerize monsters. So in a game like EverQuest, you're not swinging your axe and killing 15 monsters at a time like a Diablo game. Monsters, even ones that are a bit lower level, might take a minute to take down, and getting 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 monsters on your group at the same time, even if they're a bit lower level, can turn into chaos and death. The mesmerize ability is kind of like a sleep or something. It will take a creature out of the combat for some amount of time unless it gets hit. So this is going to save our asses time and time again. You'll see, and I'll show you some really incredible fights where he's able to turn what would be certain death into a line of sleeping monsters that we can pick off one by one. The other really important ability enchanters get is it's called Breeze or Clarity, or Crack is the informal name for it, but it's just a mana regen buff. Absolutely essential because mana regen is slow in this game. And the third thing that makes enchanters extremely powerful, I mean there's others, but number 3 is their ability to charm a monster. Monsters in EverQuest are really powerful. They are not, again, little wimps that are easy to take down in one hit. They are tough and they hit very hard. So enchanters are able to charm a pet. This pet will fall around and be able to be commanded by the Enchanter, and it will attack using that monster's stats, essentially. The trade-off is that it will occasionally break charm and try to kill the Enchanter, so that's kind of the fun risk and reward there. And for me, I am going to play a Paladin. Paladins are a tank class, so really the job is to try to get aggro from the monsters so they hit me rather than anyone else. Paladins also have a lot of tools for generating aggro without having to do too much damage, which is a big problem on new servers. When warriors need to generate aggro by hitting things, Paladins can just use their stun spells or their blind spells and other methods to get the monster to hit you. Paladins are relatively good healers, worse than shamans, but not too much. They're able to resurrect, which is going to be pretty neat, and they can really just soak up a ton of damage and have some abilities to save the group when things go south. So in general, we're a group that is going to be a bit slow to do damage, but will be able to sustain for a long time. And the main idea, as you'll see in some of these clips, is we try to pick up 3 other characters, stragglers or whoever, who want to join and be our damage dealers or pullers to fulfill roles in the group that we aren't super good at. And in general, we form a very, very solid core for a team. We can play just as 3, but it's so fast if we grab a few more people. So we're finally in. Thrilling stuff. I make my character here. This is Quiche, a halfling paladin. Halfling is an interesting choice. It's not that much worse in stats than the kind of meta dwarf paladin. It sacrifices a bit of strength, gets a little agility, but in Everquest, stats do not have a huge impact, especially later in the game. The big problem I'm going to find with choosing a halfling is they start in a really inconvenient location. This server is starting with the Shadows of Lucklin expansion, which lets you travel to the moon, and the moon is kind of a travel hub. The problem with halflings is they start relatively close to one moon transporter that would require me going through an aggressive level 20-30 area to get to, and quite far away from the next closest one. Also, because of the way we are making our characters, each of our characters is starting in a very different part of the world. Since Broaf is pretty new at the game, my plan was to use the game's persona feature, which will let me make a fake barbarian transport to where Broaf is starting and play with him for a while and then help him get to where Enchanter is. So I do that, I make a fake barbarian, I turn back into my cute mutton chopped self, and we're ready to start killing some goblins. Well, how do we get started? Where's our first quest? There isn't one. Everquest doesn't have quests. I'm sort of lying, and there are a few quests that are worth doing, but in general, the way you start out is just go out into the field, start exploring, and start killing things. Now, this might seem a little dull and weird to people from newer MMOs, but I don't know. I don't think those fetch quests they give you at the beginning of those games are that engaging either. You're just kind of following a compass dot and doing whatever they say. At least this gets us right into the action. And boy, what action it is. In early levels, you can do basically nothing other than auto attack. Broaf here has a couple spells that are not super useful. And we just grind up these goblins here. We find a little camp. We fight them, they die in extremely erotic poses, and we get our levels here. Our main goal right now is to get to level 3 or 4 so we can make the trek to meet up with Enchanter in the Greater Fadark. This will mean us going south through the gnoll-infested dungeon Blackburrow, out into the Kanos Hills, through that city, to their boat, or translocator in this version of the game, and to the continent of Otis, where we will find a translocator that will take us to the moon, and at that point we can take another translocator down to the Greater Fadark, where we will meet up with Enchanter. Wow, traveling's really difficult in this game. And that's kind of something I like. It isn't effortless to get from one place to the other. There isn't friction-free fast travel. Areas feel big, and at this level, pretty dangerous. So this is something that I really appreciate about the game design in EverQuest, which is very accidental, very confusing, very friction-y, but adds a lot of kind of emotion and memory to travel rather than it being a convenient nothing. All right, the boys are together. What should we do? It's time to kill some orcs. So the Greater Fadark is a big forested area. It's the home of the Wood Elves and the High Elves. The Wood Elves live in that super cool treehouse settlement that is impossible to navigate. And the other major dwellers in the forest are a big camp of orcs and an entrance into the dungeon called Crushbone, which is an orc dungeon. So our big plan here is we're going to kill some orcs outside of here and then go into Crushbone. This works pretty well, though they love sneaking up behind on us, and when they get the drop on us, if we're low on mana, we can die. Once we hit level 4, we're able to foray into Clan Crushbone. In Clan Crushbone, we're kind of reliving history here. In this area, people started to kind of discover the roles that people would play in MMO groups, understand tanking, understand the notion of camps and of grinding. It's really kind of interesting to see how this area and similar areas within EverQuest shape the culture of MMOs. This area is a little bit dangerous because there's just tons of orcs around. Some of them are much higher level than us, and we got to get some hired guns here to speed things along. Enchanter is our comms and PR guy. He's usually really good at gathering up a group, and since we do form a really good core of the most in-demand classes, a tank, a healer, and a enchanter, we can have our pick of whoever we want as long as we don't grab another, say, paladin, which is the first thing we do. So we get another group here. Having 2 paladins turns out to be a bit of a problem because of the way aggro works. We're just kind of pulling it back and forth, which can be a bit confusing. He grabs it a bit too much and he doesn't let it go and almost dies a couple times. This is a touch frustrating, and it speaks to a big problem with starting out as a tank and why it's not very popular to start a warrior or a paladin or a shadow knight on these servers at the very beginning. And that's because with no armor, you can take 3, 4, 5 big hits, then you die. So the poor healer is just hammering that heal button. So the first order of business here is to get me some armor. But luckily, the orcs of Crushbone drop something called Crushbone belts, and we can collect them and do one of the few quests that are really worth doing in EverQuest, and that's turning these in at the Dwarf City, which we'll do soon, and that nets us quite a bit of leather armor, which will keep me much better protected than running around nude. So we're killing some sentient sapient orcs, but they are slavers, and we love John Brown here. It's always morally correct to kill slavers. This experience is a lot of fun, and it's somewhat close to what people would have played like early on new servers back in the day. A few things are going to be different. There have been significant changes to a lot of the underlying programming that does change the game. It does make it a bit easier and faster paced. And this specific TLP also has special bonus zones where you can find to get faster experience, faster money, etc. They change every day. It's kind of cool. The second thing that makes this way different than back in the day is everyone knows so much. Most people who play on these TLPs aren't brand new to EverQuest. They've been playing off and on for 20 years also, and know all the best spots and know what gear they want and how to play their classes more or less, which I don't necessarily do that well because I've never played a paladin before. I have a little bit of experience and I've played, a bit of EverQuest. But most people here probably do know the game better than I do. The thing I think that these TLPs recreate in a really cool way is this grouping environment. We can get 3 more people to join our group and play with us, and we have a great time and develop these dynamics and strategies, and sometimes it's fun and sometimes it's frustrating, but I think this is something that is not recreated in modern MMOs. Also, aggro generation is kind of interesting in this game too. Later on, when we hit level 20, we get a really useful tool, the extended targets window, which gives you exact numbers on aggro generation. For now, we're kind of flying blind. And by blind, I mean I have to cast the spell blind over and over again to keep aggro on creatures. This is okay, it's pretty cheap, but it can really backfire because if I cast blind on something that is right next to me, it will get a ton of aggro and target me probably. If I cast blind on something that's far away from me, it will start wandering off in a random direction, which is a big problem because then it might pick up aggro from more creatures and we might get a huge train and die. So that's kind of interesting. Later on, I'll get more tools. I'll get a bunch of stuns that are great for keeping aggro. And we also have the taunt ability here, which is something that is free to do every 5 seconds or so. And if it succeeds, I get put on the top of the creature's aggro list. So that's kind of one of the major tools. Here we are fighting on the infamous Orc Hill. We've managed to get rid of that paladin. It is not great to have 2 low DPS tanks fighting for aggro back and forth, even when we have shitty HP pools and bad armor. But yeah, the group's much better now, and we're about to kill the Orc Trainer, who has a small chance to drop a magical shield that will double my armor class. And he does drop it, and I get the drop, and now all of a sudden I can take hits. I can take way more hits. So this is pretty exciting. This was quite lucky, I think, and definitely is a great sign for this character. We take a little break from Crushbone now to go and visit Caladim, the city of the dwarves. Here we can turn in our Crushbone belts. They will give us experience, money, and some small leather armor. Small armor fits me just fine. It won't fit anyone else, but that's fine. I need the armor. So here's what I look like now. Turns out that in the name of immersion, dwarven paladins of whatever their dwarven god is will not respect me as a halfling paladin or whatever my god is. So I have to use a little trick where I sneak behind them in order to use my training points up. And that's fine. I also buy some spells for the next few levels. I have some stuns now, and I'm able to buff a little bit too. Back to our old shit in Clan Crushbone. We are able to take on much harder monsters now. It's very fun to kind of get into these zones and have them be very difficult at first and then slowly master them. Or actually on these TLPs, it's pretty quick to master them. In more emulated experiences that mimic the pace of very old EQ, it can be quite slow. And back when I was a dumb teenager playing this game, I would be in one of these zones for weeks maybe, slowly grinding, trying to solo on classes that should not solo. But now that I kind of know how these things work, it's pretty quick, and we definitely have juiced Crushbone for most of what it's worth at this point and can move on. Alright, and by the end of the night we're about level 10 and we are going to go to bed, and we're pretty happy with that. We gamed for about 8 hours here. We got to level 10. Some people probably hit 30 by now because a lot of people really know how to play this game and are very intense about it. I'm recording this a few weeks out. We've still been playing, not at a really crazy clip, but with some good frequency, and we're still having a lot of fun. So I'll keep on posting the adventures of these boys if you're interested. All right, I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you soon.